Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest. She is a sponsor of College Hockey Talk and will be one of our first College Hockey Talk sponsored athletes. And she is also a member of the St. Anselm's women's hockey team, Devin Porazinski. Welcome to the podcast, and how's everything going? And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to come on. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. The weather hasn't been the best out here, but just trying to hope for sunnier days for the weekend and enjoyed that. But overall, it's been all good on my end.
That's awesome.
Now, besides training and obviously school, what else have you been up to in the past few months? I know your team didn't really have a season. You played one team scrimmage, but that was about it. So I'm curious what you've been up to for the past few months.
So while we were at school, although we weren't able to have a season, we were able to still train. So we were still on the ice every day, every other day. We were also in the lift room, which was awesome. Um, and it was nice because we got to bond with the incoming freshmen that we didn't really get to meet. And it was just a great time for our team to bond in general, I think. I got to know a lot more about girls that I didn't know before.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And just talk about not playing any games this season and how did you try to handle that? And what was your mindset throughout the past year, not playing any games? And what did you try to do to help prepare yourself for next year's college hockey season?
So it was rough, especially because, some teams in our league did end up playing and our league did have a season this year. Um, so, it was a little heart crushing. But I think it kind of motivated my team to work harder. I think it was like, okay, well, we don't have a season, but we still have the opportunity to go out and skate. And that was something that, we were so very thankful for and lucky for. Um, I think we kind of took it as like, okay, this is a great opportunity for us to focus on the little thing in our games to get better. We did a lot of skill sessions and one-on-one skills with coaches, which was awesome. We got a new shooting range this year. So we were able to do like a lot of stick handling, footwork, and shooting. And it definitely has improved our game a lot.
Yeah, just talk about your training. What does that look like so far? And what are you trying to work on the most during this off season?
So at home in Colorado, I train with Hannah Westbrook. She was actually one of my NEWHA coaches. And it's really awesome to have a coach that has known me for so long and knows how I play. Um, this season, I made goals to work on my foot quickness and my speed. I'm a bigger player. I'm 5'9". I find it harder for bigger players to be faster and keep up with smaller players, no matter if you're a male or a female. It's always something that's difficult. So I made a goal this summer with Coach Matthews before she left um, to work on my foot quickness and foot speed. So off the ice, I've been working on sprints, making sure that my feet are always moving, a lot of stops and starts, especially like running wise. And then same goes on the ice. With Hannah Westbrook, I have the opportunity to train with boys. And it's really awesome because it helps my speed get up every summer, which also helps me move my feet a lot more, I've noticed. Boys are very good at continuing to move their feet, which also pushes me to be better at that.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, things are starting to open back up here in the U.S. So, has that changed your approach at all during this off season compared to last year, where you're a little more limited regarding your training?
Um, I don't think it changes my approach. I still want to be the best that I can be when I go back to school, for myself and for my teammates. But I think it has like approach wise, it's changed a lot. Or well, I guess going in, it's changed a lot. I'm able to go to the gym daily now. I go every morning. I'm able to skate every day. It's not, you go in, you can't see anybody, you can't skate, or it can only be one person. It's nice to train with some other college girls here from Colorado that I didn't get a chance to last year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just talk a little bit more about your off season for a little bit. And just what is something you want to improve on the most regarding your game for next season, and how have you tried to work on that area during the off season?
So foot quickness is definitely one of them, but I would say another area is I would just say like anticipating the play, like learning to know. Um, Unfortunately, I've only played my freshman year because of last season, so I think it's going to be, you know, this year is going to be a struggle at the beginning for me, especially because, I only got to play my freshman year. So it's going to be like right off the bat again, being freshman, playing wise, which comes with pros and cons, of course. It's exciting because I feel like I get to really like build a name for myself in college hockey, which is awesome. Um, and anticipating the play is definitely a huge part of college hockey, especially in women's, because you can't hit. So the game is so much faster. You always have to think like 5, 10 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, not playing a game in a year and a half, how do you plan to like get rid of that rust when you first start playing actual games? Because it is a difference with practices versus actual game day activities.
Um, I can promise you, I definitely am going to be a little bit rusty. I know that for sure. But I feel like that's anticipated. I feel like everybody's going to have a little rust who didn't play this year or last coming year. And sure, it's going to be rough, but I think if, you know, my team is ready to come back full force, I'm ready to come back full force. So as long as we keep pushing each other in the first couple of practices, I think we're going to be great.
Yeah, and I know you didn't play last year, but have you been watching any college hockey at all? And what's your thoughts on the past seasons with Wisconsin winning the women's national championship and UMass winning the men's national championship?
I have been watching some college hockey this year. I always do. I always find myself watching hockey somehow. Um, I think it's awesome. I think the championship game for Wisconsin and Northeastern was a great game to watch. Um, I was definitely biting my nails for a little bit there. I know some girls on both teams, and it was really cool to watch both of the teams participate this year, and they both had a great season. I watched the men's championship NCAA game. That was also a very good game. I actually just watched a recap of the game or a replay of the game on the plane coming home from New York a couple days ago, and I actually got to like sit there and analyze everything that happened. And UMass was so strong and such a good team this year. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit of your analytics of that game because we have a good friend named Jake Gaudette. He was the captain of the UMass team. What's your analytics on him, and how did you think he played during that game?
I think he's a pretty big and strong player. He's definitely fast and he moves the puck great.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing I noticed about that UMass team was how good their goaltending was. Philip Wimberg played excellent, but obviously he had COVID during the Frozen Four game or the semifinal game. And Matt Murray really stepped up, having not played for 3 months. And it's just really cool to see how good the goaltending is in college hockey. And it just keeps getting better and better throughout the seasons, which is great to see. And I think that just helps the sport of hockey grow even more.
I agree. It was crazy. I was watching it and I kind of kept up with UMass, but not a lot. And I remember watching the game and thinking, "Oh my gosh, his goalie's so good!" Like I haven't seen him play in a while, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's really on it." It was awesome.
Yeah, and the defense obviously stuck out to me as well. I know a lot of those guys left to the NHL, but Zach Jones, Mark Delgaizo really leading off that blue line as a top pairing defenseman, especially in the power plays. It was just incredible to watch, and that's what I think made that UMass team special was just how good their defense was.
I agree, especially on power plays. Like it was just like shot after shot. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And did you get to analyze a little bit of the women's championship? I'm sorry, I love talking about this stuff. I know it's
No, it's okay. I definitely did. It was awesome to watch. I think it was awesome to watch women's Wisconsin and Northeastern because they're in different leagues than us, and they both come from this different leagues also. And I feel like with every women's NCAA league, it each league plays differently. You know, the Minnesota teams play more physical. So does Wisconsin. Um, Northeastern has extremely fast players, great goaltending, um, and I think that they matched up so well together because it was like oh my gosh, Wisconsin, would rush the puck down and make a great shot on net, but then Northeastern would come right back. Or Northeastern's defensemen were amazing. And then Wisconsin's defensemen were amazing. The goaltending, though, was outrageous from both teams. It it was awesome because I don't think I've ever seen goaltending that good ever. And that's from men's and women's. And I thought it was probably the best game I'd ever watched.
Yeah, I know Aaron Frankel's obviously one of the best goalies in the country today, and it's kind of surprising that she didn't make that USA centralization roster for the Olympics. But I think Kennedy Boyer really put out a name for herself during that game because I thought she was kind of underrated going into the national championship game, but she really played well and really competed well against a great goaltender like Frankel.
I agree. I think her transferring from Mercyhurst, she really made a name for herself this year, which was awesome to see. I think a lot of girls, when they transfer for their senior season or whatever it may be, it's kind of hard to start back up and make a name for yourself at a different school. But I think she did a great job of doing that this year.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing I noticed about that game was the physicality because there was a lot of body checks going back and forth, and I thought the refs did a good job being very lenient and not calling those. I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
So I played varsity boys high school hockey here in Colorado, and I can definitely say that, and like playing boys varsity hockey, playing in the JWHL with NEWHA, and playing college now, girls hit. Girls definitely hit. We might not have the open ice hits like the boys do. You might get away with it one out of one game. But girls definitely hit. And I think that's the awesome thing about, women's college hockey is the physicality is so, it's not, I don't want to say it's super intense, but it's definitely there. And it's awesome because, the refs know that it's there too, but they let us get away with it. And I think it's awesome because it's just proving that girls hit. I mean, I skate with boys all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, you can hit really well. And I'm like, we do that in the women's too. Like it's not something that only boys do. And I think it brings a huge different part and perspective to the women's game. I feel like it helps us, you know, think faster, think more on our feet. I think it's awesome.
Now, what's the biggest check that you've ever thrown during a game? I'm curious to hear that.
Um, I boys high school hockey definitely. I definitely got thrown around a little bit, but I think it was a great experience. It made me faster. It showed me and brought out different skills in me that I didn't think I had. Um, but it also told me and taught me how to make open ice hits, and that's something I got pretty good at because I'm a little bit bigger. I'm not, 5'6". I'm pretty tall, and even with some of the boys, I'm pretty tall. Um, I've made one huge open ice hit that I will never forget. And the kid was coming down with his head down, and I just put my shoulder into him, and both benches were cheering, and I think I will never forget that.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever had a check like that during a girls' hockey game or only during a boys' high school hockey, your boys' high school hockey experience?
I've definitely seen it in girls. Now you're not always going to get away with it, especially because it's open ice. Um, but I've definitely seen it in girls for sure.
No, it was, I don't know if you remember the championship game. I think it was towards the end of the first period, and Dara Watts threw out a big check on one of the Northeastern defenders. I don't know if you saw that, but what was your thoughts on that?
Um, I think that people say that there's no checking in women's hockey. There
Hmm.
definitely is. Um, and like I said, those Wisconsin teams and those Minnesota teams, they definitely check in their league. And I think it's awesome. Now, you should never go out to check and intentionally hurt somebody, but I think it brings a different area to the game. It brings different skills. And I I think it makes us faster, You don't want to get bumped in the boards. You don't want to look silly, so you're going to
Hmm.
skate faster. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think it also makes the games easier to call because you don't know what might be a hit and what might not be a hit to call. So I think there's that aspect as well.
I agree.
So now let's transition a little bit back to your career so far with St. Anselm. So I know you were talking about earlier in the interview how you got to know the freshmen a little bit. Just talk about this year's freshman class, this upcoming year's freshman class, and how have you guys tried to get to know each other a little bit during this unusual time?
So this past year's freshman class, it was a little difficult just because a lot of us, like, we didn't know when we were going to go back to school. We didn't know if we were going to have a season. It was a lot of like wishy-washy things. But I think that really brought us closer together as a team. Like I was saying earlier, being able to skate and lift and, it was awesome because we didn't have games, which sucked, but we were still able to be around each other, which was really cool. Um, this year we were put into quarantine quite a lot, which kind of stunk. But our team is very big on team bonding and being very close knit. So, we made sure we played games over Zoom in quarantine, which is fun. We did trivia nights, we did yoga on Zoom, a lot of different ways just to keep us engaged and keeping it so that we would get to know each other. Um, this year's freshmen, we've had a Zoom so far, gotten to know them, which is awesome. I'm really excited to see these girls and meet them. I've heard awesome things about them. And yeah, I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a great season, and I think we're all eager to go out there, especially the returning players because we didn't have a season. So I think we're all eager to get out and finally start playing some games.
Yeah, and another thing that people might, or at least it might be crazy for you to realize, is that you're going to be an upperclassman for this upcoming season. So, what type of leadership do you want to bring? Are you more of a vocal or lead by example type of player?
So my team knows I'm very loud. Um, I yell a lot. I don't mean to. I'm just a loud person in general. Um, but my leading style, I think, is a little bit of both. I was a captain my senior year at NEWHA, which was awesome, and I loved it. Um, you know, I feel like by leading with your voice, you can't always show what needs to be doing or needs to be happening or going on. So I think also leading by example and doing the things that you need to do plays a huge part in leading. I think both are just extremely important qualities to have.
And what are some of your goals and expectations for yourself and for your team for the upcoming season?
I think for our team, we have a pretty similar goal. We all want to go back and win our league. I think that's a huge thing. We are also NCAA. We have, and I'm not sure if it's a bid or if we have to play to get in, but I know that's like a huge thing on everybody's radar. We really want to make a name for our school. We want to prove, we're Division I. We belong to be here. And I think it's just a huge thing is that we just all want to come out and really, show what our team has. Personally, I want to be a good teammate this year, and I want to make great plays, and I want to set up my teammates.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to ask you about that. Your league, the NEWHA, will now be eligible to make the tournament. And just talk a little bit about what it's like playing in that league for fans that are listening that might not know about it, just the competition you face every day. And just talk about what the transition is going to be like for yourself, kind of going to more of a D1 schedule. Because I was talking to some players on your team, and I heard that you guys are going to play Northeastern and Maine for this upcoming season, which are two powerhouse schools in the Hockey East Conference.
Yeah, I know we're all very excited about our schedule this year. It's our league is new, but I wouldn't give our league a pass. Our league, what I like about our league is anybody can be anybody any day. It's not like certain leagues where they have the top dogs and nobody beats them. Our league is you need to come ready to play, and that's that. Anybody can be anybody any day. Anybody can have an off day, and I think it really shows in our league. My freshman year in playoffs, LIU beat us in the championship. They're a first year team. That's like probably my favorite part about our league is you always have to be on top of your game. Um, our schedule this year is definitely jam packed, and I'm super excited. We had a new coach come in, and she's also very excited about our schedule, which is awesome. So
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You have a whole new coaching staff coming into the team next year. What was your thoughts on their hiring, and how excited are you to be coached by them for this upcoming season?
I'm very excited. I'm very thankful for the things that Coach Matthew has done for us up to this point, but I'm very excited, to start a new season. And it's going to be awesome. I've heard great things about our coaching staff coming in, so I'm very excited to see what we can do this season.
So let's transition a little bit and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and work all the way up to where you are now with St. Anselm. So you're from Colorado. Just talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
So I was originally born and raised in Chicago. My family's huge in the Colorado hockey scene out there, or Chicago hockey scene out there. I played boys until I became a U12. I then went to the Chicago Fury and played for Rob Granato. Um, I then we moved out to Colorado for my dad's job. I started playing girls hockey out here for a AAA organization, the Colorado Select, which is no longer around. I then moved to the Rocky Mountain Rough Riders, which was a AA girls hockey program when I came in, and we had AAA boys. Um, the next year, when I started high school, we became AAA. And then I was then double rostered on my boys varsity hockey team and my girls AAA team, which was a lot of fun. I did a lot of traveling. I was exposed to a ton of different things with district camp, national camp, tournament teams. It was awesome. And then my junior year, I got picked up by NEWHA, North American Hockey Academy, and I did my first season there and my senior season there.
That's awesome. And obviously being coached by Don Granado, what's it like being coached by one of the Granado family members? Because obviously Tony Granado is a great coach with Wisconsin, and Cami Granado is just a hockey legend, and I can go on and on about how great of a player she is.
Rob Granato's awesome. I'm really good friends. We're still really good friends with the family. They're awesome people, amazing. My dad played hockey with them growing up too. They are wonderful hockey people, and they are definitely people who still have and play a huge role in my life today.
That's pretty cool to be like family members with that legendary hockey family. What are they like, kind of like off camera, I guess, or not coaching?
They are the same people. They are amazing people. Um, I played with both of Rob's daughters, Allie and Mandy. And Allie actually played at the University of Vermont. Mandy plays golf now at Omaha. They're great girls. I mean, I can't express to you how amazing the family is. Um, they really impacted my hockey life for sure.
Now, speaking of the Granado family, who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone on the Chicago team, or was it another player, or maybe a women's hockey player who was on the Olympics?
So my favorite NHL player is definitely Andrew Shaw.
Mm.
I love how small and gritty he is. It's awesome. But my favorite women's ice hockey player is probably Kendall Coyne. I remember growing up in the Chicago area at the same time she was playing for the Mission and then went to Northeastern. Um, I played for the Mission U10, tiny little kid just playing hockey. She signed my gloves and I was so excited. I still have those gloves that have her signature on it. She's such a great player. She's so fast. I don't think I'll ever be anywhere close to as fast as she is, but she's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's amazing about Kendall Coyne is obviously she's one of the best hockey players of all time. However, I feel like she's going to be remembered for what she's doing now after hockey, working with Chicago, being one of the first female coaches with that organization. I think it's incredible to see, and I hope she continues to rise up the ranks and potentially be the first female head coach in the NHL.
I agree. She has made such huge steps in women's ice hockey for the younger generation and the generation coming up now. It's awesome to see. It's very exciting.
Now, I have to ask you about Andrew Shaw because one of my favorite players growing up is Brad Marchand, and I know a lot of people don't like me for it, but I think he's awesome. He's kind of a smaller guy, but he scores goals and he makes everyone upset, which is awesome as a Bruins fan to watch. Is that why you kind of gravitated towards him? Because I feel like there's similar players.
Yeah, I love Andrew Shaw. I got to meet him the year that they won the Stanley Cup in 2010. I got to meet all the players actually, which was amazing and something I'll never forget. Um, I love Andrew Shaw because he is so rough and tough, but he's so small and like you would not expect it out of him. You'd expect him to be more like Patrick Kane, like fast, handsy, can dangle around people with no problem. Andrew Shaw he just sticks out to me. I'll never forget the goal that he had butted in. I still laugh about it because I think it's awesome. He's such a ballsy player, and I feel like you don't see it that often anymore. And that's what I really love about him.
What was he like when you met him?
He was awesome, really down to earth. All the Chicago Blackhawk players were. They're all really great guys.
Yeah, I'm curious to ask you about that because Patrick Kane's one of my all-time favorite players. Just because, in my opinion, he's the best American-born player of all time. How cool was it to meet him in person, and did it kind of feel unreal when you saw him?
Yeah, so I was 12 when I met them. So, I was little, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. My mom has, framed photos of me in the house with Patrick Kane and Andrew Shaw and Jonathan Toews. And it was awesome to meet players that year because they won the cup and it was like the dream team of the Chicago Blackhawks. I flew again. Like I met all these awesome players that don't play for the Hawks anymore. So it was definitely like a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorite players from that team was NEWHA, the goaltender. I feel like no one gives him enough credit, but I thought he was great during that playoff run, and I liked watching him play. And I know Corey Crawford kind of took over for him after that championship and won the other two cups, but I really liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was an awesome goalie. I think another, you know, not player who was named a lot was Brian Bickle. I think he was awesome.
Brian
Such a
Campbell as well.
Yeah, exactly. Phenomenal players. But yeah, it was awesome to meet all of them.
Yeah, I know we were talking about big hits, but Brian Campbell's big hit against, I don't know, I think it was Richards, if I'm not mistaken, in that Stanley Cup final was awesome because I had Cam Crowdy on the podcast and he was telling me that that was his favorite player. And he told me to watch that hit and it was pretty incredible to see and how it kind of changed the momentum of that series.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you're talking about. It was
I,
crazy.
I do like to say that Mike Richards was an incredible player, and it's kind of funny how no one really remembers him now. But back in the day, he was awesome to watch, and I hope he comes back out and does some sort of media thing because I think he was a fun player to watch. And that Flyers team, even though they broke my heart, they were the first team to make me cry watching the sporting event when they beat the Bruins after they were up 3-0 in the series. They were still a fun team to watch if you're just like a neutral hockey fan.
Yeah, I love a good underdog. That's always my favorite.
Yeah, and then the Bruins won it the next year. So I have
So
nothing
it's
to
okay. It makes up for it.
well, then 2019, 2013, and then obviously
Okay.
just the heartbreak's continuing. I know people don't feel bad for me at all about that, but it's tough to watch sometimes. But I still love my Bruins to death, so I have no complaints against them. They're only going to get positive vibes from this podcast. I love the Bruins. That's my team. Now,
Okay.
before St. Anselm, you were talking about how you played for NEWHA. Just how did you get the opportunity to play there? I'm curious. Like, what was the story behind that?
So I actually attended national camp here before that. So the coaches, Jesse and Bill Driscoll, had seen me before that. I also knew Hannah Westbrook, who was my coach at NEWHA. She played a huge role in women's ice hockey here in Colorado. I'd known her basically since I'd moved to Colorado was when I met her. And I remember I was getting ready to leave for a boys varsity ice hockey game, and dad was like, "Hey, I got an email from NAHA. Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "You got an email from NAHA?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my gosh, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, they want you to come play for them or something." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I mean, I knew, two girls, Lauren Spino, Emma Withrich out here, played for them. Lauren Spino goes to LAU, and then goes to Boston University. And I was so excited because I'd always gone, national camps with them and district camps with them. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you sure they want me, Dad?" And he was like, "Yeah, the email says Devin." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay." So I always wanted to go to boarding school. I just didn't really know where I wanted to go. I looked at the gunnery in Connecticut, but I hadn't really, I was still just kind of looking around. I didn't know if I wanted to leave home. It's a big commitment to make at such a young age. Um, and Parker, Colorado is not that big of a town, so I didn't really want to leave any of my friends. Um, so I was, still debating on it, and I had gone to the game that night, and Hannah Westbrook came up to me and was like, "You need to come to NAHA. Like, you are gonna love it." She went there, and then she went to UVM, and she was like, "You're gonna love NAHA. Like, it's the vibe you want. You're gonna love the girls there." So I was like, "Okay, I guess I could go to boarding school." And that September, I left to go to school in Stowe, Vermont, and it was the best decision I had ever made.
Yeah, and how did that NAHA experience help prepare you for college hockey with St. Anselm?
Um, it definitely prepared me off and on the ice. Off the ice, living with 40 other girls, it definitely prepares you for a lot. Um, but I made some of my best friends there. I made connections with people that I'll never forget. Off ice, we had a very strict routine. You got up at 7 a.m., you went to practice, then you went to lift, then you got back, ate lunch, and then you went right off to school. It was not playing, and it was the same thing every day. So you had to be very dedicated to what you were doing. Um, on ice, it definitely helped me. The JWHL is an amazing league. The size and the speed is amazing. It definitely took me like a year to get used to because we would play Canadian teams. And, there's always Canadian teams that stick out that are great. But the JWHL has great teams. And at NAHA, we went to awesome tournaments. Um, we played Shattuck my senior year. We played awesome opponents. And I learned a lot from going there.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I was talking to Kalia Johnson, and she went to NAHA back in the day, and she was saying, like, when she went to Boston College her freshman year, there was not a lot of adjustments she had to make being a student athlete, because at NAHA, you play hockey in the morning, then you do school in the afternoon. So you kind of get used to what it's like being a student athlete in college. So once you get to college, it's like, I already know what this is like. I don't even really need to adjust. So I think, and that's what I've been learning a lot from talking to other players who go to NAHA, go to Selects Academy, all these other type of boarding schools, how it really prepares them being a student athlete in college once they get there.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the top boarding schools for girls like NAHA, Shattuck, Select, they all really have it down. They know, being great friends with the college coaches, they know exactly how schedules need to run, and they know what they need to do to make their players better to get them to those schools, and they know how to prepare them, essentially for the college aspect and the hockey aspect when they get there.
Absolutely. Now, thinking back to your NAHA experience, what's the best memory you've ever had, whether it's on or off the ice?
Um, okay, I have two. Off the ice, we went to a small gym. This was before NAHA moved to Massachusetts. They're now in Massachusetts, but they were in Stowe, Vermont before. We went to a small gym, and we had a trainer who did weights with us, and then we had one who did a spin class with us every Tuesday and Thursday. And I can never find a better spin class than what that instructor did with us on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because I think I fell in love with spin classes after that. She was such a great off ice and conditioning coach. And then on ice, I would definitely have to say winning our league my junior year. We won it in Detroit, Michigan, and we drove all the way from Vermont to Detroit, which was definitely a long drive, but it was so worth it. Um, it winning your league it's such a big deal for NAHA, especially when I went there because we only went to NAHA till March. So you didn't go to nationals. The end goal was to win our league, and being able to do that was amazing, and it was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And it must have been a nice bus ride to come back from Detroit to Vermont, because if you lost that game, that would have been like the longest bus ride you've ever had.
Exactly.
What music was playing during that? I'm curious. Was it just like straight up like the song was just vibing, or was it more like just a lot of chatter?
Um, it was like everybody was just so excited. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, we won our league!" Because it's a really big deal at NAHA. You want to carry on the legacy, and the tradition that the girls before you passed down, and so it was just like a lot of giggles and excitement on the bus.
Hmm. That's awesome. Now let's take me back to your recruitment process. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go to St. Anselm versus other schools that might have been recruiting you at the time?
So NAHA is amazing at pushing girls Division 1 and Division 3 and making sure that we get a place to play in college. I think I was one of the last girls to commit in my grade at St. Anselm. Um, and I was between a couple of schools. I knew I wanted to go to a smaller school. Um, I just I had it narrowed down between like 3 schools, and I was like, okay, like what do I want to study? What do I want to do? Um, how do I vibe with the coaches? How do I vibe with the girls that go there, and the team in general? I got a call from Coach Matthews going in. It was the year going into my senior year. It was like that summer. I met her at a camp, and she had me come on an overnight visit. And literally as soon as we drove onto campus, my other teammate was with me, who also goes there, Kennedy Cooper. As soon as we drove onto campus, I was like, holy crap, this campus is so pretty. Like, you think about New Hampshire, and like, I'm like, I don't want to go to school in New Hampshire. New Hampshire, like, there's not much there. And I drove on campus, and I was like, holy crap, it's so pretty. And we went in the fall, so we got to see all the leaves changing. And St. Anselm is on the hilltop, and like, we're quote unquote the hilltop school. And it was absolutely gorgeous. So I was like, okay, this school's really pretty. Like, what else does it have for me? So we pulled up to the rink, and I was like, no way is this their rink. It's so nice. We have a giant scoreboard in the middle. It's one of the nicest college hockey rinks I think I've ever seen. It's beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, this school's so nice. And so I called my dad the next day after my overnight, because we were going back to the hotel after that because we had a tournament in Massachusetts. I called my dad, and I was like, hey, so I think you and mom are going to have to fly out here. Like, I think I know where I want to go to college. My dad was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I think you're going to have to fly out here now so I can go and commit. And Coach Matthews is awesome. She let me take my time. My biggest thing was I wanted my parents to see the school also, especially because I live so far away. I wanted them to know that I was safe, and I was going to a great school. So they came on campus, and I remember sitting in the office with my dad and Coach Matthews. And, she was asking me how I liked the school. And I go, so I think I want to commit now. And she was like, really? Are you sure? Like, I'm not pressuring you into this. And I was like, nope, I'm going to commit now. And she was like, okay. And right then and there, I did it.
And that's it. Now, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college? I know we talked about how you kind of had a pretty seamless adjustment from your NAHA experience to St. Anselm, but was there anything that stood out to you playing your first few college hockey games on what you had to adjust to the most?
I think the hardest thing for me to adjust, and Coach Matthews knows this because I struggled with it a lot my freshman year. Um, I would come from class and my brain would be so fried because I would sit through lecture after lecture and I'd be like, okay, it's time to dial in now for hockey. Where's that energy?
Hmm.
And it took me, the first month or so, the first month that I came in my freshman year, I actually had a broken foot. So I wasn't skating, I wasn't lifting, I wasn't doing anything. So I got away with, being tired at practice. And then when it came to skating and coming from class, I would jump on 10 minutes late because, academics come before hockey. It's very important. And I would be like, oh my gosh, my brain is fried. I can't even remember the drill. She just drew on the board 5 minutes ago. Like, how am I going to do this? So I definitely had to learn how to take time out of my day while I'm getting ready to focus in and zone in and be like, okay, school happened 10 minutes ago. I just got out of class, but now it's time to focus on hockey. And let's think about the great practice you're going to have today. What are you going to focus on this practice? Is it going to be scoring? Is it going to be, body language? Is it going to be all of this? And I think that was a big adjustment I had to make because at NEWHA we had so much time in the morning. I could sit there at breakfast and be like, okay, so this is what I want to work on in practice. This is how I want it to go. Where in college, you don't get that time. And so that was definitely an adjustment, but I got to it eventually.
Yeah, yeah, that's all that matters. You did it. Now, during your freshman year, you mentioned this earlier on in the interview, but you lost to LIU in the NEWHA championship game. What did you take away from that game overall, and how did you just evaluate your first year in college hockey with St. Anselm?
Um, so I think the thing that I learned the most that season, especially in the championship game, was that in order to win a hockey game, especially in college hockey, you have to play all three periods, and it has to be all three. It can't be 2.5, can't be one period. We score 6 goals and then we get away with it because that other team can come back out and throw the kitchen sink at you, and then oh crap, what are we gonna do now? I think that was a big thing that I learned my freshman year, where like I feel like in high school you can get away with, okay, I played 2 great periods, but what am I gonna do now? College hockey, you can't do that. You have to play all 3 periods to your fullest potential, and you cannot underestimate anybody at all.
And overall, just talk about your St. Anselm experience. And for all the people that are listening to this episode, just talk about why it's such a good school and why you love being a student athlete there. And just talk about like what your whole experience overall, like how would you evaluate it, I guess?
I think this year I got a little bit more of the student side than I did athlete side compared to my freshman year. Um, and I love it. I love the small school atmosphere. It's not a big school. We have, 2,500 kids, I think, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We are ran by monks. We are a private Catholic college. Benedictine monks run our school.
That's cool.
Um, it's actually very cool. And
Hmm. Are
when
they
I first
bald
visited,
or am I just like stuff in the movie? Oh, that's kind of sick, actually.
yes, it's really cool because you get to go into the monastery. The abbot comes in and he blesses us and allows us to come in. We learn about a lot about the monastery. We actually have monks that come to our game. They love ice hockey. They love going to all sports, and it's awesome to see them in their sunglasses and Birkenstocks. You know, watching the games. I think that was one thing that like shocked my parents when they came out for family weekend and watched our games. Um, but I love our school because we're so academically focused. I'm a politics major, and we have and hold the Democratic debates every 4 years at our school, which is awesome. So you get to meet the candidates, you get to see it up front and personal, which makes the experience so much more awesome. And it's in our rink too, which is even cooler, because they're seeing my home. But our school is small and I love how everybody knows everybody. Um, Professors will show up to your games, monks will show up to your games. The community outside of our school loves the students there. You'll look at the Facebook page and the people around are always talking about how awesome and great the students are that go to our school, and how, you know, we're so helpful towards the community. We're so close with community because of our church being on campus. It's really something awesome. And like, you don't have to be religious to go there. Like, I don't go to church every Sunday, but it's awesome to make these relationships with the monks, because it's their permanent home, and I think that's really cool. And I wanted to go to a school that had something a little more than hockey, and our school definitely has a little more character than just hockey. You know, we have the academics, we have the community part, so it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I go to a public university, so never going to see a monk in my college days, but it's all good. So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions. Now, one thing I'm trying to introduce to the podcast is fan questions. So the first fan question comes from Blue Fancy, and her first question is, well, how does your lifestyle change from being in Colorado versus being in the East Coast? Because apparently there's like a difference, she told me.
There is. Blue's right. um, so here in Colorado, the atmosphere and like the elevation play a huge part in my training. You know, I'm in such better shape when I come back to school, because it's so hard to breathe here, because we're way above sea level. Where when I come back to school, it's so easy to breathe, and I feel like I'm in great shape because we're at sea level. It's definitely different living in Colorado and switching coasts. I noticed that when I went out to NEWHA, there's a lot of words that I don't understand that East Coast people say. Wicked, I don't get it. I try very hard. There's a lot of foods you guys eat that I don't get.
Like what? What do we eat?
I don't like, just like, you guys, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I'm trying to think, like, something out here that's huge, like, is barbecue. You guys like have barbecue places, but they're not like everywhere. In Colorado, they're on like every corner. Your guys' is like seafood because you're by the sea, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, seafood, I'm not a seafood guy, believe it or not, from the East Coast. I would prefer a barbecue dinner over a seafood dinner. Oh, you're the
I
opposite?
love seafood.
uh, I think
um,
maybe because we live in different coasts, so we're not used to it. Maybe that could be it. I don't know.
Probably. Another thing is like you guys driving, you guys are crazy drivers.
We're the
I
best
can
drivers. I complain about it of all time. I say it's my biggest pet peeve, bad drivers. However, Massachusetts statistically has the best drivers in the country.
it's
It's the hardest state to get a driver's license in. That's a
it's
fact.
so crazy. Like, you guys, like, I'll go like 5 miles over the speed limit and I'll be like, okay, I'm going pretty fast. Like, I should probably slow down. Somebody will blow by me and I'm like, oh my gosh. Or
Yeah,
like the lingo with the roads, like rotary, I say roundabout. Like, it's
roundabout.
so, yeah,
Wow.
it's so funky.
Yeah, well, driving here is definitely different, but I think it helps you become a better driver because once you go back to Colorado, you know like how to make quick turns, you know how to deal with
Yes.
bad drivers, and I think that's an important skill for people to learn in the roads here, especially like I don't know if it's just in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, maybe town rule, but we can't pave the roads until a certain time in the winter, so just the potholes are just like every winter. So,
We don't have that, but I have noticed that you guys have no street lights. So I
oh,
always
really?
feel so blind, like in my neighborhood and even on normal streets. It's like street light after street light after street light, like the
I live right
whole
next
road
to
you
a
can
street
see.
light, which is kind of funny. So
I'm
maybe I live
telling
in
you,
next.
nobody has street lights when I drive out by school and I turn my
Blue.
high beams all the way on
Yeah,
because I feel I can't see anything.
yeah. No, that's definitely some changes, but it is what it is. So I want to ask you a little bit about some of your teammates. You obviously have the best style on the team. But besides yourself, who is the best dressed on St. Anselm's women's hockey?
You know what? I'm gonna have to either give it to Blue Fancy or Maddie McCaffrey. Um, I would give them style points. I would take one away from Maddie because she's Maddie. Um, but I would probably give it to one of them.
Who's the funniest on the team?
Oh boy, the funniest. Um, I would probably say Unfortunately, Blue Fancy or Aaron Myers.
She did not say herself. She said Aaron Myers. So that's all
I
I'm gonna say.
am surprised.
Biggest pet peeve.
When people chew with their mouth open or talk with food in their mouth, I can't stand it.
hmm I can agree with you on that. I think mine is bad drivers or people who don't cover their mouths when they sneeze, especially
Oh,
during
that's the
now.
worst.
Especially now, it's like, what are you doing? I don't want to
So
have.
unsanitary.
I don't want to get shut down for another year and a half. So please cover your
Yeah,
mouth.
no thanks.
Final non-hockey question to you is: if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself and why?
Okay. It would definitely be Scarlett Johansson. I watched Black Widow last night, and it doesn't seem like I'm a huge Marvel and Star Wars nerd, but I love them so much. I would pick Scarlett Johansson because she's just a badass in general.
hmm
And she always plays characters in movies that are like sick. So
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. For myself, I usually say the same answer, but I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. So I'm a big Parks and Recs fan. So I feel like Rob Lowe would be a cool person to play me.
that's a good one.
He has his own podcast. He's in great shape for being a middle-aged person. Like I think he has a six-pack, which is awesome. I hope to have a six-pack when I'm in that age as well. So that'll be a cool, I guess, actor to play me. So even though he look nothing like, I think it'll be awesome. So
I
Rob,
think
if
that's
you're
a good
listening,
answer.
you're my guy. So back to some hockey questions now. My first question to you is: I asked this to everyone: is what advice would you give a younger player who is trying to pursue a Division I college hockey scholarship or Division III college hockey scholarship? I should put that in more often in those questions.
Um, I would definitely say I don't think there's any difference in training when it comes to being a Division I or Division III athlete. You still put in the same amount of work. You still put in the same amount of time of training. Um, there's Division III schools out there that can beat Division I with no problem. And I think that just goes to show how cool playing a college sport is. But I would tell them, keep pushing, keep working. No matter where you're from, it's definitely harder from some places than others. But, keep pushing, and eventually those people are going to find you, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I heard someone say this. I don't know who it was, but they're saying one time they told a kid that you're definitely good enough to be a Division III athlete, and they took it like it was an insult, and he was so surprised by it because like that's a compliment. Like there's so many hockey players that can't even be a Division III athlete. So for anyone who's listening, it's a huge honor and huge accomplishment to make it to Division III. So don't think it as like it's an insult or anything, which is disappointing that some players feel that way.
I agree. I mean, if you look at the NWHL right now, more than half the players are coming from Division III
hmm
because it doesn't matter what division you play. If you're good, you're good. Like I said, it doesn't. Any team can be any team. It
hmm
doesn't matter whether you have that 3 or that 1 next to your name. A good player is a good player.
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, but my final question to you is: you are an officially a sponsored athlete with College Hockey Talk. What are your thoughts on that news and your overall thoughts of being part of our College Hockey Talk team and being a contributor with us for social media? And obviously, we're working on merchandise right now as well.
I think it's super exciting and I'm very grateful. I'm excited because I feel like this podcast helps shows college hockey players in a different light. You ask us great questions, and I think it's fun that we get to goof around and be silly on a podcast and not have to be so serious all the time.
hmm
Because I know a lot of kids from my school are always like, "The hockey players are so serious," and I'm like, no, we're not. We love to have fun, you know. I'm so excited because this also gets a chance, to show other hockey players, whether you're male or female, what's out there for you. Um, you get to interview all these amazing hockey players from different schools, and each person has a different background. They all come from different areas. And I feel like if I'm able to represent this podcast and show somebody else, oh, hey, like you come from Colorado, I come from Colorado too. Like, this is how I did it. Like, you can definitely do it too. So I think that's something that's really awesome.
Well, I'm very excited to work with you, Devin, and this is not going to be the last time we hear your voice on the show. She'll be making guest appearances throughout the season, so I'm excited about that. And I think you got a little taste of it from our conversation about the championship games. But do you have any shout outs before we let you go, just to any of your friends, family members, or teammates?
Yeah, I definitely got to shout out my family, especially my mom and dad. They're definitely my biggest supporters, and they've been with me and picked up the tab for every time I've played hockey,
Mhm.
which is a fat tab. Um, and, shout out to my college teammates because they're amazing people, and I would be nowhere without them today. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you so much, Devin, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. You're an amazing person, and I just want to let you know that obviously you're a great hockey player, but you're an amazing person, so kind, so nice, and that means a lot to me. So I just want to let you know that, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day and talking with me. It really means a lot, and I can't wait to work with you, like I said before, throughout the upcoming season. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, and I'm also very excited.
All right. So